present
Write
yourself.
them down. Yeah,
I have
okay.
all of them.
Thank you.
The CEO.
Thank you. I have gone through the CEO, Ms. Semane, Ms. Maseti, Mr. Mkize, Ms. Sibia. I think it's an imaginary regulator member that I have in my head. Apologies for my imagination running ahead of me. Members, we have one agenda item that we are going to approve. Agenda item, can we then just to the agenda and adopt the agenda that we have? It's item number 3. I've got Mr. Mkize with his hand, Ms. Bia, Advocate Sitole, Ms. Mbungose, Ms. Samane, and I saw Ms. Bia. Thank you. The agenda has been adopted. Members, we are on item number 4. Item number 4 is a declaration of interest. And if there's a member who has an interest to declare, please do so now. Ms. Maseti, I think it's a lingering hand. You have no interest in Samanco or Glencoe. There are no interests to declare. May I then request the members if they could complete the declaration of interest forms, including the members of the NESA Secretariat, if you could also complete the declaration of interest forms as requested. Members of the public, we are now on item number 5. This is now the report by the chairperson of the Electricity Subcommittee, and that is going to be done by the regulator member primarily responsible for electricity regulation at NESA, Ms. Maseti. Ms. Maseti, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, thank you for indicating that I don't have financial interest at all. Chairperson, before us today is the request made by Eskom to the energy regulator to relax the take-or-pay terms of the negotiated pricing agreement that Eskom entered into with Samanco as well as Glencoe, Glencoe Ferrochrome. Chairperson, the regulator will recall that in October 2023, the regulator approved a 6-year negotiated pricing agreements for these two companies based on the recommendation that was brought to us by Eskom in terms of the interim long-term NPA framework. Based on the assessment of that application, the energy regulator approved that those NPAs for the two and also imposed, amongst others, the following condition. And this is a condition that is imposed by the regulator, just so that I clarify the matter that the members wanted us to distinguish between the conditions that NERSA imposed as well as the conditions that are coming out of the NPA. Now, in the decision, and I'm quoting directly the condition, it says that each of the 6 Samanco and 4 Glencoe smelter operations ferrochrome smelters must be liable for a minimum consumption payment of 70% of normal consumption measured over a calendar quarter and adjusted for demand response and substantiated technical events. Chairperson, I'm only reading one part of the decision, which is the one that necessitated this matter to be before the energy regulator. This part of the decision, Chairperson, was made by the energy regulator in line with the clause of the NPA. That clause of the NPA, the framework itself, it guides NERSA how to deal with issues of demand as well as market circumstances that might change. And if I refer the regulator to that clause, it is clause 10.11.1, which states clearly that an appropriate mechanism is to be formulated that will limit an applicant. An applicant in this case is a customer in terms of the NPA. So that will limit a customer from reducing its power consumption due to market conditions and not contributing to the required revenue. So now that the two customers experienced challenges in the marketplace with regards to the demand, and because the price in the international market has been depressed by the oversupply that is taking place in the market, it became difficult for the two customers to be competitive. And because NERSA then had to limit then the what you call the issues pertaining to consumption by putting the condition that I read out with regards to the minimum quarterly consumption of the customer to 70%, to say that each of these two customers, at least by a quarter, they need to consume about 70% of the normal quarterly consumption. So this was then had an impact on the take or pay clauses, because if they don't take this minimum, then it means that they will pay in any event, and therefore that will work against these two customers. So this obviously, as I indicated, it will impact on Eskom's revenue, and then the customers then approached Eskom to say to Eskom needs to relax the take or pay agreement due to the challenges that the two customers are facing in the market. Eskom then has looked into the matter and came as we expected in terms of the NPA. Once you are approached by a customer, the licensee must make a recommendation. So Eskom came to the energy regulator, made a recommendation. However, in the recommendation, there were two options that Eskom did not clearly indicate whether or not or which option will be the viable option that the energy regulator must consider under the circumstances. However, the two customers made it clear in the hearing that they wanted the relaxation of the take or pay requirement of 70%, and the period for that relaxation is 6 months. They believe that it will at least give them an opportunity to assess the conditions of the market if they are likely to change. They also indicated that there are some industrial policy actions that could be taken, since the industry is one of the strategic industries in terms of the IPEP being the Industrial Policy Action Plan by the DTIC. But as of now, they believe that if the clause can be relaxed, it could give them the required relief in the market. This will not change the total amount that they consume per se, but it will at least relieve them of paying, even if they are not taking that amount. So the recommended option is the smelter take or pay, as discussed. Table 1 is not shown, Chairperson. I just wanted to indicate that the team will actually insert Table 1 entry that is referred to in the decision, and also to approve the reasons for decision that is on paragraph 7.5.6. Again, members, I would like to indicate that this reference to 7.5.6 does not really appear, so they will check the numbering there in the RFDs, as well as that table 1 that is referred to. If you can note that, and then Eskom must then submit progress reports on the implementation of the waiver of the take or pay requirements 2 months after the effective date. We may need to look into these 2 months, members. I do want to say why I say so, because there's reference in the request, as well as in the request by the parties, given the nature of their market. So they have a tendency of checking the impact only on a quarterly basis. So the 2 months might not makes sense. So I would like to amend it to say after a quarter or 4 months to check what happened, and thereafter every 2 months until the end of the relaxation period. The period is 6 months, ending in what is it? Is it August? August. It can't be August now because it's going to be 4 months. This is to allow NERSA to monitor the implementation of the waiver of the take or pay requirements. Members, lastly, I just want to draw your attention to the deliberations that took place at the ELS, Electricity Subcommittee. They are listed on paragraph 5. There's a table on paragraph 5. Chairperson, I won't read those. I've already clarified the essence of what is before us and the fact that it came as a result of the NPA, which we are required to implement from our side, and the matter is properly before the energy regulator, as we have established jurisdiction in terms of that, both in terms of clause 10 of the NPA and also in terms of the decision that we have taken that links up directly to clause 10 of the NPA. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Massetti, for that very conclusive and descriptive presentation of the submission. Members of the Energy Regulator, we have this submission in front of us with the changes that Ms. Massetti has made on the recommendations. May I get your points of clarity, questions, concerns, or enhancements that you would like us to make on this submission? Please raise your hands, colleagues. I've got Mr. Sbanda. Mr. Sbanda, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Ms. Massetti and the team. Chair, I do support the recommendation. Just have a couple of comments and probably some enhancements as well. I'll probably just go to the RFD itself. Starting off, that's on page 19 of 149. Maybe the first thing that I wanted to raise, Chair, you probably covered me with your introductory remarks. It's just around the process itself that I think we need to find an expedited way of dealing with these applications. It's probably the first time that we have to deal with an amendment of an NPA, but it's not your typical business as usual type of application. And so I think even from our side, we just need to be responsive in that sense and maybe dispense with some of the partial requirements when it comes to the set time frames and the like. But yes, these are quite time sensitive types of applications. Now, when it comes to the decision on page 19, and yes, Ms. Massetti is correct. There's no table 1. I'm looking at decision 2B. But my recommendation then would be to say let's rather write that decision in full instead of referring to table 1, number 3 on paragraph 7.56. Let's just write out that decision in full. I don't think it's that long if you look at the respective paragraphs. So let's just write that particular decision in full. And I do support the change of the 2 months to 3 months to make it quarterly reporting. The second thing or third thing that I wanted to raise is the discussion under legal mandate on starting from page 22 of 149. but specifically on page 23. Now, I think the main purpose really of this section is to communicate why we are doing what we are doing, what authority do we have, which section of the Act of the framework, which clause of the framework empowers us to do what we are doing, because this is an amendment of an NPA. Now, I didn't see anything in the framework that talks to an amendment process. And I know we cite section 15.3 of the ERA, but that particular section talks to tariff applications, and this is not a tariff or an amendment of a tariff, but it's an amendment of conditions of the NPA. So I think we need to be quite clear in how we communicate this, legally speaking. And I do take the point that because we approved the original NPA, therefore necessarily we would have to have the authority or the powers to consider an amendment of that particular NPA. But I'm not too sure that this is what is being communicated in this particular section, Chair. Which brings me to the next point, that we need to write in simple language. There's no need really to jumble up words and try and be sophisticated and all of that. I think simple is best. And I'll ask a question. For instance, if you look at paragraph 1.6, I'm not too sure what we mean by that first sentence that says the administrative decision regarding the NPA has been made, which brought finality to the powers of the energy regulator. I'm not too sure what we mean by that. You look at paragraph 1.9, I read it and I'm like, what are we saying? What are we trying to say? Or what are we communicating? But everything also in between, right from paragraph 1.5 to 1.9 or 1.10, I think we can simplify it and make it much more simpler. Then we also talk about consideration and finalization of a deviation request by Eskom. Now we are using the term deviation here, but elsewhere or everywhere else we talk of an amendment. And I think that's what this application is about. I don't think it's a deviation. And I think we need to be consistent in the manner in which we write. We need to write in one voice. It doesn't need to show that this particular section was written by somebody else. This section was written by another person. Let's have one voice throughout the document. And if we are dealing with an amendment, let's deal with an amendment, because this is not a deviation application or request as I understand it. Also, I wasn't too sure in paragraph 1.7, we quote the electricity pricing policy of 2008. I thought there was an updated EPP. I stand to be corrected on that one, Chair. The next issue, sorry, Chair. When we talk about, and this is on page 41, the risk assessment, there's a snippet of the NPA that refers to tariff negotiations that have to follow this amendment, and it indicates that to the extent that there's no agreement on the negotiated tariff, then there's a possibility of the NPA being terminated. And I thought perhaps that's another risk much as we can, much as we consider this application. But if the tariff itself has to be renegotiated and there's no agreement, then the NPA can be terminated. And I thought maybe that's a risk that we may want to highlight. Then lastly, I think it would also have assisted if this application was supported by the DTIC. I know that there was a public consultation process, but if you look at clause 4.10 of the NPA itself, it says every NPA needs to be supported by the DTIC. And the question that I have is, what about an amendment? Doesn't that also need to be supported by the DTIC? I'll leave that as a question. I think that's all from my side, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sibanda. I think Ms. Maseti, before, as you are preparing really the response, I think a lot of the points raised by Mr. Sibanda were for enhancement rather than for us to respond. Mr. Mkhize?
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks to Madam Maseti for the presentation. I am a member of ELS, and my comment starts from just recognizing the management's incorporation of the comments that were put forth during the ELS meeting that recommended the approval by the ER. Just would like to touch just on a few things further. From my side, I think when we're looking at what is within our space or where we've got a discretion to change and where we don't, the clarification falls in line with the issue of our jurisdiction or our being empowered to consider this and what we can change or not change, or allow a change to be effected therein. And then the other issue that I'm not clear with, when in terms of the amendments made, like under 5, I'm also pleased that there is going to be reporting, which is going to assist in terms of us being able to see what's going to happen post the decision, because as to which plans are going to be put on care and maintenance and which are going to be operated at a particular level, that is not out at this moment. So I think those reports, as they are recorded, they are also going to assist. But also for the sake of the public, I think it's also important to clarify the issue of care and maintenance in terms of the impact on the employees, because if one considers what the initial objective was and what it still is, in fact, that of also not adding to the unemployment rate that we are currently facing, just to be able to talk to those issues. And then I just got also on the sorry, I'm just getting the step, Chairperson, by my instrument here. Yeah, there is a point under 5 in terms of the table and on page 4, where it says consideration of the take or pay will effectively fulfill the policy objectives for which the framework was established. I think if it is clarified, I don't understand what that means, the way it is put there. And then also under, I think it's under page 5, when we're talking of the sustainability of Eskom as a supplier, I think we should reflect in terms of why can't this be deemed to be at full price for electricity price determination to protect customers on standard tariffs. Though small, it could be a fair amelioration of the undue increases that could be borne by standard customers or customers on standard tariffs. And I agree with Mr. Sibanda in terms of that table to be just included, because it's not something that is too long. And then on the description of what the full the group level entails, if that can be maybe rephrased to say that when we're talking at group level, it's not the evaluation of each smelter collectively, but it is all the smelters collectively, and then you look at the average of them in terms of the consumption. That will then help in terms of providing clarity. And I take it also that we'll take this for language editing. For example, also noted in some areas where we're talking of noteworthy to note. So if such could be corrected. So for me, Chairperson, there are just some enhancements which I'm also going to send to Mr. Matebula, and I think that will help to cover me. I think the issues of personnel, the impact even under 7.5.7 in terms of being clear with care and maintenance on page 33 of 149 also helps to clarify the matter. And the issues of the description of all matters is also, other than the table, under 7.5.1, just to make it clearly understood by the reader. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mkhize. Ms. Masetti, I think there's a lot of enhancements, but maybe there are points that you would like to address as a response. But by and large, I think there's alignment in as far as the recommendations. So the recommendations, from what I see, there is no change other than just putting them as in words, as Mr. Sibanda has suggested. But you have the floor, Ms. Masetti.
Thank you, Chairperson. You are correct. Chairperson, there's just three things, at least, because the rest are enhancements. There are just three things that needs to be clarified, really, because from my side, I did try to locate our jurisdiction when I presented. But the issues that Mr. Sibanda raised, I think they do deserve clarification. One is on the issue of amendment, that is on the legal analysis section that needs to be clarified. Whether what we are dealing with here is an amendment in the context or as contemplated in section 15. I think that is important, that it be clarified. And then the second thing that Chairperson needs to be clarified is just the issue of the deviation. Reason that I'm saying is critical also that we locate it properly here is because it is also dealt with in the Act. I believe it is in section section 15 of the Act. So the context and the purpose of that is important that it be clarified. I think it is in section 15 sub 3 of the Electricity Regulation Act, and that deviation, it empowers the regulator to arrive at an amendment. But I think LAS can just, Mr. Moratti can actually clarify that part, because they are mentioned in this, so that we can see if this ties up nicely with the provision of the NPA, which allows NERSA in instances of demand uncertainty and the changes that may take place in the market that might actually affect the performance or the consumption. If Mr. Moratti can clarify that. Those for me, Chairperson, are the two things that I can actually say they need to be clarified The last thing from my side is simply section 12 sub 8 of the NPA framework, which states that a letter from the DTIC supporting the request for an NPA. Remember that we had the original NPA, and this really was just to relax the terms of the take or pay. So I did not see this as a sort of the original NPA per se, which compels or necessitates the DTIC to again write a letter. So I just wanted to bring in that part that, yes, it's a good point that is raised by Mr. Sibanda because it is there in the NPA. However, in this time around, it was merely just to relax the condition that was put by the energy regulator. Through you, Chairperson, if Mr. Morati can deal with the issue of deviation and whether we are dealing with an amendment here and those issues that may need to be taken out that may not be relevant here from the viewpoint of him trying to explain the fact that once the energy regulator has taken a decision, the energy regulator cannot revisit that decision. I think that's what he was trying to communicate here. So he needs to just properly locate that and explain so that everybody can understand what is it that he tried to communicate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Massetti. Mr. Murati, or Advocate Murati.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, and good afternoon, regulator members. Chair, Madam Massetti is correct that we in dealing with the issue, we tried to address the first part of the finality of the decision of the regulator with regard to the NPA, linking it up with the section that Mr. Sibanda cited, the 15.3, which is what the regulator is empowered. And we proceeded to reflect that the issue that the framework gives the regulator the powers to consider when a recommendation is made. Those issues forms part of the decision that results in the approval or the rejection of the NPA. And that what the parties are bringing in before the regulator, it is not the process from the beginning. It is what is supposed to be in the amendment of the NPA without changing the price. So the issue of 15.3 doesn't get to be affected, but it is the elements that have resulted in the decision of the energy regulator that Eskom has brought before the regulator, that the regulator, for purposes of aligning the original decision and then the request that is being made, the consideration by the regulator cannot be ignored because there will be those misalignment resulting in potential non-compliance. So we were linking up all those issues to reflect on where is the power of the energy regulator to address this matter and to take a decision on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Advocate Murati. Ms. Massetti, anything to add from your side?
Nothing else, Chairperson. I think everything that is mentioned by the members, it will be incorporated. Really, those are enhancements. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. May I just check, Mr. Sibanda? I know you wanted to know if there was an EPP update, but as far as I know, I think Ms. Massetti did respond to that one. The electricity pricing policy update.
Yes, I did, Chairperson. It's not finalized. It is in the making, and I believe Minister also announced about a week or so ago that there are still some changes that are being made. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Sibanda, may I just check with you if you are covered in the points that you've raised? I know you've indicated the support for the 3 months and the decision really would be written in full, but can I just check if you are covered, Mr. Sibanda?
Yes, Chair, I'm covered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. Mr. Mkhize, your points, I think, I'm not sure if the colleagues, you are covered. But in the one around the can maintenance, maybe the colleagues just didn't transcribe that the entities did indicate that they will not be laying down those people, but they have special arrangements that they normally have during maintenance periods. You're fine with that, Mr. Mkhize?
Yes, I'm covered. If they just
Okay.
make it very clear. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Members, I think we are now back to the recommendations, and Ms. Massetti has indicated that we will also be writing out, as recommended by Mr. Sibanda, that a full decision, not say that it's on table 3, but the first one on the recommendation is that we are recommended that we approve the request for a temporary amendment, and the amendment is that relaxation of the take or pay, and that part that will be written out fully, that is described under the table 1, and that we are changing number 3, that it will be 3 months, not 2 months. For that, may I see your support, ladies, colleagues, for the approval of these recommendations? I've got Ms. Massetti, Ms. Samane, Ms. Sibia, Ms. Mngose, Advocate Sitole, and Mr. Mkhize. So, Ms. Massetti, the submission has been approved. Thank you very much, colleagues. Colleagues, as I had indicated, and members of the public, that was the only item we had on the agenda. May I thank you for your time, and thank you for ensuring that as we deliberate on these matters, we are aware that we are not just doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for the consumers of electricity, for the country, and therefore we don't take this decision